Hi everyone, good to see you here. Before we invite Sacha on stage, I'd like to give a special thanks to Venue.live and Frank for hosting this event with us. So thank you so much. Maybe we can have Sacha come, and there is a question tab where you can ask questions, and a message tab. Hi Sacha, thank you for coming here.
Hello, Sydney. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
Cool. So the way it's going to work, maybe you can start by presenting yourself, and then I have a few questions I'd like to ask you, and then we can also run by the questions people ask in the chat.
Okay, great. So that's the simple part for me to present myself. So I'm Sacha Morard, CTO of Le Monde Group, which is a newspaper group. Le Monde, you probably already know Le Monde as a newspaper here in France. But Le Monde Group has also some of other magazines like Télérama, Courrier International, L'Obs, and HuffPost.fr. So quite challenging, but I have the chance to work with approximately 160 people, mainly developers and product owners, and I'm in charge of all the technical teams of the group publishers. That's my job today, but I have a strange career path because I was first musician for 6 years when I was young and when I have hair. It was really hard to have this job because music is a really tough industry. So I had to leave this industry in 2008, and I started to become graphic designer for an internet operator. Then I became developer, and I started to discover this new challenge, this new world, programming, and I really liked that. And I always code today. Then I became CTO, then entrepreneur, and I've been CTO for Le Monde for 5 years now.
Amazing. Do you still code as a CTO of Le Monde today, or is it side projects that you do when you code?
It depends. I do code, not every day, but I really like to keep myself coding because I think as a CTO or as a technical leader, you have to understand what your job is, what the new technologies. So you have of course look at the new technologies, try them, and some of the time I code on the not on the critical path because I have a lot of developers to do that. But I like sometimes to help them to deliver some special functionalities or something like that, especially on infrastructure, architectures, etc. Yeah.
Cool. What would you say is the biggest challenge that you're facing those days as a CTO?
As a CTO,
Yes.
the biggest challenge, I would. It's not an easy question. I would say the one of the biggest challenges is recruiting, of course, hiring, especially at the moment. It's really tough, really hard to recruit. Actually, you have to have a lot of talents to be able to build a really amazing team. You have to test many things. You have to fail a lot, and I would say this is the hugest challenge for a CTO. Then you have the technology, of course. Of course, you have the technology, and it depends on your industry, your market. Probably would be simple than another, or it would be complex. For a newspaper industry, what is really complex to handle is the huge traffic. You have to handle that. You have to build infrastructure able to resist this kind of huge spikes. Yeah, and the last challenge, really complex, is human. Human are not like machine, and it's way more complicated to work with human than the machines. So I would say work with human.
Thank you. Maybe we can dig a little bit more about hiring before we look at the technology side of things. Do you have any like general tips to attract talents, or let me ask you this question: Who was the last person you hired, and how did you attract that person?
Um, the last person I hired was an internal promotion. So I don't know if it's really a hiring, but it's important as well. So, but it's maybe simpler to hire inside the company. And the last recruit, I would say, as a head of product owner, she will join the company next Monday. I'm really happy to welcome her. And it was really complicated to find the best person for that role, because the role is really fitted to our company. You know, it's designed for our company. It's not really standard. And um, um, when you design a job like that, it's of course really complicated to find the best person to hire for that. And if I have to give you an advice, I won't give you an advice, because I can't say there is a secret sauce to hire correctly. It's really complicated. You have to trust your guts, your instinct, and maybe it's always a question of feeling, question of guts, of course. But for technical people, for of course technical leaders or developers, you have to be sure that the people you want to hire is good enough for your technology, of course. So you have to give them a technical test, etc. But I would say even if the developer is not really good, it could be a really good collaborator for you. So you have to, yeah, to work with your instinct.
Do you have any favorite kind of questions you like to ask during the interview process?
Yeah, the first one is the main one. Is what did you understand about the position? What did you understand about the job? And if the guy in front of you can't say anything, it's not really a good sign. You know what I mean? Because I would say it's really important when you want to be hired to look at the proposition, to look at the job desk, and to be able to answer to that question simply. And secondly, you have to look at the company as well. My second question is about the company. What do you know about my company? And can you tell me what we do? And if the answer is, frankly, I don't know, okay, I'm not sure you want to work with us. Yeah, another advice
Do you
for
want any
I
Yeah.
heard very very important. Your brand. Your brand is really really important. So if you have the chance to work for a brand like Le Monde, it's really easy because Le Monde is famous. It's a really good brand. It is about quality journalism. So it's really easy to sell. You know what I mean? But if you have a startup, you have to sell your startup to the collaborators. So you have to look at your brand and to work your brand quality, in fact.
Do you run any technical tests?
Yeah, of course. Of course, it depends on the position, of course, but for developers, lead developers, architects, yeah, we do.
We have a question from Yash Warden. I hope I'm saying this right. How do you handle a candidate doing offer shopping? Candidate who refused to join a few days before the joining date as they got an offer somewhere else.
Okay, I don't know if I understand correctly the first question. How are you handling candidates doing offer shopping? Okay. So
It's
they,
like they get many offers and they just choose the one they prefer or the one with the most money.
yeah. I do not handle these kind of things because you have as a recruiter, if it happens to you, these kind of things, you can't do anything. I would say so. Because if you ask a question to your to a developer, do you really want to join us? He always answer yes, of course, and he won't say I have another opportunity, probably better than yours. So it's hard to detect and it's hard to do with it, I would say.
Cool. Thank you so much for answering those questions. Maybe we can move on to the technology part. You mentioned that handling huge traffic and traffic spike is a very challenging, especially in an industry. Can you talk a bit more about the infrastructure that you put in place to handle that, and maybe some events that you can share that were particularly hard to manage?
Okay. Um, on a newspaper website or mobile application, when something's wrong happen, it's always something wrong. Um, users want to read information about this event, so they need to come to your website. So, for example, when the Notre Dame de Paris burned 3 or 4 years ago, it's about 60,000 people that came. They came instantly on the website, and sometimes it's way more than that, especially when French elections. Um, during the COVID crisis, the beginning of the COVID crisis, we had a huge French election, and on the first round night, we had about 240,000 people that came on our website in 5 minutes. So, of course, you have to have a scalable infrastructure because you can't handle this kind of spike if you do not have scalable infrastructure. And we have a particularity. We decided 5 years ago to build a dynamic website. Dynamic website. So it's probably simple for you to build a dynamic website, but for media industry, it's not really easy to do because if you are going to NewYorkTimes.com or WashingtonPost.com, etc., this kind of websites are always cached by a CDN. Okay, so the spikes are handled by a CDN because the HTML are cached by the CDN. And we wanted to have a dynamic website to be able to serve by ourselves our pages and to be able to do personalization, A/B testing served by the origin, etc., etc. So we do not cache HTML. So when you have these kind of spikes, it's amazing because you have to respond and to scale really fast. So it's really challenging. So we decided to build lighter application possible. We choose a PHP framework, but as an extension. So it's the language behind that is C, by the way. So we choose the fastest PHP framework possible. And we decided to do not do any HTTP call, so no API call. All the data are coming from a cache server, Redis, and the database. That's it. So it's the kind of monolith, but as light as we could. And behind that, it's Docker, so it's Kubernetes. And it's fully scalable because we work with some of the main cloud infrastructure, so we don't have a difficulty for that.
And do you have some kind of like automatic scaling whenever there's a spike, or whenever you foresee that there's going to be a spike, you add some like horizontal or like vertical servers?
It depends. When you have something like the cathedral burning, we can't program it. So the infrastructure has to scale by itself. But for election, for example, we pre-scale our infrastructure 1 hour before that, the database, the applications or the pods, etc., and to be able to handle the first spikes.
Which cloud provider do you use? I mean, is it your own provider that you set, or are you also using some like well-known cloud provider out there?
Now we are using Google Cloud and AWS, and we are going to use multiple clouds because we think it's a good idea to not only work with one cloud providers, but especially work with cloud provider for their specialties. Google Cloud, for instance, is really good for data pipelines, BigQuery, many things that there is. A Kubernetes managed services is really good as well. But for AWS, for instance, you have a fantastic database technologies, scalable database technologies. So Aurora, for instance. So we want to use them for their specialties.
Okay. Thank you. We have a few questions. I'm going to pick one from Yassine. How do you manage continuous pressure from stakeholders to move ahead with features? And how do you manage tech debt at the same time? I'm going to pull it up here.
I do not have secret sauce. I look at the business really closely. So I won't say I have pressure from the stakeholders. I do put pressure on my teams as well because I look at the business really closely. So when we have to move on a specific feature, it is because it's good for the business. So I understand that it could be a problem for the debt, of course, but if it's good for the business, you can resolve your debt just after that. So it's not really a problem for it. And in fact, with my team, we do not have a huge debt because we rebuilt everything since 3 years ago. So we started to have debts but it's rare. Frankly, it's rare.
I think we can move on to the third point you mentioned earlier, managing humans. As you mentioned, it's harder to manage humans than computers. And we have a few questions on that. Can you tell us a bit broadly how you manage humans, how you manage teams overall?
Confidence is the first word for me. You have to put confidence in your team. You have to trust them, and they have to trust you. So when you have confidence, it's always simple to work with your colleagues, of course. I don't know what kind of manager I am, but I would say I'm like a father, but in the same time, I could be a brother too. I don't know the word in English, but se faire respecter, you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah, you have to people having people respect you.
yeah, exactly. And when I ask for something, um, of course, they have to have confidence in me, and they have to do the job. So I would say I could be a father, I could be a brother. Sometimes I'm a mother too. Sometimes it depends. It depends. It's but one thing I have to say, really important for me, is that um, you have to put fun on your colleague's life. It's really important. If you want your teams to be um, teams, to be together, you have to put fun in their life. You can't ask them to only work and to deliver only what you have to. Sometimes you have to go to the pub with them. Sometimes you have to make jokes. You have to put fun in your offices.
I like that. And can you be a bit more specific about the methodology that you use in the company in your tech teams? Are you guys agile? Do you run sprints? Do you have like 101 Jira or you know?
Yeah, we use a lot of agile method, agile rituals. So of course, one-on-one, stand up. We use Jira. The teams are mainly using Scrum, so sprint, 2 week sprints, especially. Uh, we do a lot of things conduct on the agile methods. 160, 160 people is a bit complicated to organize. So 5 years ago we were 30. So now we are about 160 people, especially on the digital part. It's 110 people. So we have to build team, um, look at the functionalities, the features, look at the applications, etc. So I I read a book like that that helps me a little bit. That team topologies. So you have to look at your infrastructure, your architecture you want to build, and probably you have to design your teams looking at your infrastructure you want to build. So probably if you want to build a central API, um, um, you could create an API team, then a front team, then I don't know, but you know, it depends on your architecture. So at Le Monde, we have three big tribes. So editorial tribes, that's the teams. They build the websites for the different newspapers. We have the mobile tribe, so teams that they build the mobile applications. And we have another tribe, subscribers or revenues. They build all the applications regarding the user. And for all the tribes, we have several teams inside the tribes. And for all the tribes, we have an architect or or technical manager. Under the technical manager, you have the tech leads of each team. And in each team, you have product owner, you have product manager as well. You have a graphic designer, of course. So we are feature team oriented, and it's and we try a lot of things always.
How did you handle the COVID with the remote work? Did you go back to the office now, or are you still doing remote?
I can see some issues we could have with the full remote working. I don't want to force people to come back to the office, so they can choose, especially if they are freelance, and that's fine with me. But I can see some issues with remote working, the full remote working, because they especially when you have to ship or roll out a feature or a website, etc. I can see that they don't speak enough together. And some of the time they lose some information, and they can't anticipate correctly some problematics. So I ask them politely to come back to the office, but it's a bit complicated. So what I want to do is to create events, to organize breakfast, hackathon, etc., to help them to come back. But I don't want to force them.
I like your management style, kind of inspiring rather than dictating. We had a question from Yashwardan. When did you decide to divide the team in pod and tribes? What was the team size when you made this change?
3 years ago, we started to think about it 3 years ago because we had to scale our teams. We had a lot of budget to spend. So because we had to accelerate on developing some features and websites especially. So it was really necessary to hire, and you can't simply hire people and put them in your existing teams. It won't work. So you have to organize your team to be able to scale and to be able to develop fast. 3 years ago, we were approximately 17, 60 or 70, sorry. And 3 months later, we were almost 100, I would say.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'd like to switch to another topic about security. Can you tell us a bit how you manage security at Le Monde? What worked well and what didn't?
It's extremely complicated, security at Le Monde, because Le Monde is a perfect target. We have journalists, and some of them are working on sensitive topics. So we know that they are listened, followed, probably. So we have to protect them physically, but as well digitally. So of course, the first thing is to secure the network, the computers, etc., etc. So I do that with my IT team, and it's always in movement because we detect some threats, some different kind of threats, and we do not have the same capabilities than a bank, for example. We only are a newspaper. We don't have the same money. You know what I mean? So, in terms of cybersecurity, it's really complicated because cyber security solutions are really expensive. So we can't afford to buy all the cybersecurity solutions. So some of the time we have to build solution by ourselves, and some of the time we have to find different kind of partnership with a solution. So of course, network, computers, phones. When journalists have to go to the foreign country, especially sensitive foreign country, we have the dedicated solution for them, and it's really hard. At the same time, we have some kind of huge threats like DDoS attacks, because on the digital parts, websites, mobile application, APIs, etc., are perfect target for hackers. And we saw that at the beginning of the Russian crisis, we had a lot of attacks, especially DDoS attacks. So when it's happened, if you are confident enough on your tools to be resilient, it's fine. But we are not, and we won't be confident enough, never. So when you're under attacks, you learn a lot. When you're under attacks, you can try some things because you have to try some things to get rid of that. So especially since 6 months, we did a lot of security improvement on our digital infrastructure because of the Russian war.
Wow, that's scary. And I mean, did you implement any process? Did you try any tools to help you build on security, or?
Yeah. For example, on the digital part, we have, of course, some of health check that helps us to understand if we are under attack or not. And we built and we bought some other protections, like protect solution. We have a CDN in front of our infrastructure, but it do not cache the HTML, as I told you before. But we do have CDN before that to cache JS, CSS, etc. And the CDN could be a solution to prevent some DDoS attacks, because you can do rate limiting, for example, with your CDN. So we do have a CDN for that, and we are using Fastly for that. And just behind that, we have a WAF solution, a Fastly one as well, called Signal Science. So with Signal Science, we can detect an attack, we can block it, we can detect crawling, we can detect bots, we can detect brute force, etc., etc. So you can do whatever you want. And on the application side, we do have as well some protections. We are using Screen, that was bought by Datadog recently. It's a French solution, amazing French solution, and we do use a lot of things like to prevent some phishing attacks. So we help our collaborators to train themselves to detect phishing. We have a lot of solutions.
We actually had JB from Screen coming to talk here. So yeah. And have you run any security bug bounty or anything like this?
No, we don't, unfortunately, but we don't have a specific reason to do that. I'm looking at, but for now we don't.
Okay.
But we do pen test approximately twice a year with cybersecurity companies, but we do not have bug bounty offer.
I'm going to pull up another question. I was reading the comments. I'm not sure I understand what Florence said. Maybe you can be more clear about. Can you share with us the set stack afterwards? I'm not sure what you mean exactly, Florent. The technical stack from Sacha.
Okay. Okay. So for the website especially, because I can speak about the mobile application as well, but mobile application, if you want to be short, mobile applications are hybrid, but coded with native languages, so Swift and Kotlin especially. That's it. Then for the website, it's a bit more complicated. So we have the CDN in front of everything, in front of every request. The CDN cache the CSS, JS, images, etc. Okay. When you have a request coming from the CDN will pass the request to the WAF, the Web Application Firewall. The Web Application Firewall detects if there is a threat or not. If not, it passes the request to our origin. The origin is hosted on a cloud provider, so the request is sent to a load balancer. The balancer is load balance the request to many pods. The pods, inside the pods, you have containers with PHP, Nginx, and the framework is a C framework, so Falcon. It's a monolith. When we generate an HTML page, we have to do it really quickly, really quickly. So we optimize everything, the request, the cache, the program itself. So the functions have to be quick, etc. The code has to be really resilient and fast. Then the PHP can call the database. It's a PostgreSQL, scalable. Then when the PHP calls, do a request to the PostgreSQL, then the PHP will cache the results into Redis. Then the following request will only request Redis for the next request. That's the front technical part. And of course, we do have a publication workflow. We do have a CMS built by ourselves. We develop our own CMS called Cyrus. And Sirius is React.js application. And the publication workflow is really asynchronous. So when we have to publish a content, journalists write the content inside the CMS. Click on the publish button. All the content of the article is sent to a queuing technology like Kafka. Then the front technology, Falcon, will get the message, will get the data coming from Kafka, and import the data into the Postgre database. That's pretty simple, by the way. And in fact, I have to say, simple architecture work faster than complex architecture.
I think we had a question. Thank you. I think we had a question from Guillaume. Is there any cool thing your team have been working on recently that you're really excited or like super proud of?
Cool things. Okay, what's the cool things your team have been working on recently? I have one. It's coming, so it's not really in production, but I can tell you. So we are working on text to speech solution, but advanced text to speech solution. So 1 year ago, we started to look at these different kind of technologies that are able to translate a text into an audio. And we did a lot of tests with that, and we decided to have our own voices. It was really important for us to have the Le Monde voices. So we had to create new voices with actual solutions, text-to-speech solutions. And it was a really tough challenge. I did, by myself, a talk with my own voice and with a journalist's voice. And it was really great. The result was really great and encouraged us to go further. So we built an entire solution inside of CMS to create voices and alternate voices on an article, put some musical ambience behind the voices, a jingle, ambiences, etc., etc. And the result is pretty great. And we are we've just rolled out in beta last Monday, sorry. And it's going to be really amazing, I would say. And it will be available on our La Matinale mobile application. So if you want to test it in 1 month, absolutely, you do have to download the La Matinale du Monde application, and you would be able to hear all our articles.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Maybe we can take one last question from Florent before we finish this talk. I'm going to put it up.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about having a monolith. Do you plan to do any microservice, or is it not relevant for Le Monde?
As we have a dynamic website that serve the full HTML, it's not relevant to migrate to a microservice architecture. But I have to say why. For SEO questions, we decided 3 years ago to serve all the page in one HTML. Okay, so we do not use JavaScript frameworks to get some part of the pages. So we do not use React, Vue, etc. for the websites only. We do use React for the CMS, etc., etc. But for the website, no, we decided to do not. And in fact, it was really important, this kind of choice, because we are able to serve pages in one time, even with personalization, with A/B testing, from the origin, etc., etc. And it's fast and it's really effective. So if we wanted to go to microservice architecture, I would say we would have to use maybe a JavaScript framework like Vue or React to be able to get some of part of the pages asynchronously. Okay, even if we can do server-side rendering in the first time. But it's a huge change for us if we decided to do that. So for now, monolith, it's not really complicated for us to handle, and it works. So I'm not sure to change my mind about that.
Well, thank you so much, Sacha, for coming here and sharing with us. This was an amazing time with you. So I really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, if you have anything else to say, you can say it, or just thanks again.
No, I have to say thank you, Sydney, for the invitation. Thank you very much. And I'm really sorry for my English. I did my best. But I hope I was a little bit clear. But don't hesitate to send me emails. My email is really simple: Morard, Morard, at lemonde.fr. And if you want to ask me anything, don't hesitate to ask me. And you can contact me with by Twitter or LinkedIn if you want, of course. And thank you very much for the invitation, Sylvie.
Thank you, Sacha. Have a good evening. Bye bye.
Good evening. Bye bye.